Back in 2010, there was a 14-year-old girl who was very depressed because her grandfather had just died, her parents were getting a divorce, so she decided to run away from home. This 14-year-old is from Dallas, right? After she ran away from home, she got arrested because she stole some money. As a result, the police questioned her, they asked her what her identity was, and she gave them a completely fake name. Little did she know that she gave them the fake name of an undocumented immigrant that the officials were looking for. So they decided, oh, okay, you're that person, we're just going to deport you. They deported her to Colombia, even though she was a U.S. citizen. They didn't investigate the case. Thankfully, her grandmother, who's been searching for her since 2010, was able to find her. But they literally just found her because of Facebook. But this story is amazing. Like, ICE officials were like, oh, so it turns out that you're so-and-so? You're actually black and don't speak any Spanish at all, but we're going to deport you to Colombia anyway.
What's the name she made up?
They just say fake name. I don't know what the name of the person is.
Because, you know that it was probably like, let's just make up a name, like Angela Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Oh, guilty. Let's go. Off to Colombia you go. I mean, there's no way that name isn't held by like at least 78 people in that state. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? What kind of a unique name could it be that they were like, oh, it's definitely her, even though she appears to be black and totally American and doesn't even speak Spanish? I'm sure she's faking it. Angela Rodriguez, off you go to Colombia.
Here's another twisty twist of the story. She gave them the name of a 22-year-old undocumented immigrant. She is 14 years old. Like, it doesn't take much. Like, just a little investigation. It really doesn't take much. But the ICE officials, who cares? It's just a young black kid. Let's just deport her to Colombia.
But Hispanic, black, what difference does it make? Off you go. Off you go. Now, look, keeping it real, okay? If she looked waspy wasp, right? Would they have been like, oh, yeah, that's definitely Angela Rodriguez.
Would she get arrested for stealing the money in the first place?
Maybe. I mean, let's hope so. If she's stealing, that's not right. Let's hope they would enforce the law against anyone. But it's just crazy. How long was she in Colombia before they found her?
Over a year.
That's unbelievable. Think about that. Over a year.
They just found her.
That's the most amazing part of that story. She probably couldn't find her way back home because she doesn't speak Spanish.
How scary is that, though, to be a 14-year-old in a foreign country, you don't speak Spanish, and it's Colombia, which has an issue with drug trafficking, right? I would be scared for my life.
Yeah. Imagine they did that to, like, just make up a different thing. Like, they're like, oh, yeah, you said your name was Abdullah? Well, that's funny, because we were looking for Abdullah. Off you go to Afghanistan. And you're like, she's in university. Wait. I don't speak Pashtun or Urdu or anything. Off you go. Disaster. Yes.
Yeah. How often does this happen to Whitney Worthington Dowling III? Right.
Yeah, that's what I was just asking with the waspy wasp. No way.
Look, when I was a prosecutor, this happened all the time. All the time. Every single week, without exception, we would get a Juan Gonzalez arrested in court. And I look at the case file, I'm like, Juan Gonzalez? This guy is 5'4", 140 pounds. The one that's on the arrest report, or the one that's on the warrant is 6'2", 240. It's not the same guy. Like, yeah, well, whatever. Oh. And then the bad thing is if you're picked up on a Friday, you got to spend the whole weekend in jail before we have the hearing on Monday. And let me tell you, man, it is outrageous how often this happens and how not angry they are. I mean, like these poor people, they just think, well, that's just part of being poor. I mean, they are victimized all the time, and they just don't even get that mad about it. Because if that happened to me, I would lose it.
Oh,
if I spent a weekend in jail for nothing, I would go crazy. But Anna, this is the reason why we shouldn't have too many laws like anti-bullying laws and all that kind of stuff, because it'll be abused all the time. Right. Do you think they're going to bust Whitney Worthington III for bullying, or are they going to bust Juan Gonzalez or Tyrone Williams? Think about it.
Okay, so you're...
What races are those three people?
Well, Tyrone Williams, he's Asian.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. They're not blah, are they?
All right.
All right.
Can we have a debate about mandated reporting right now? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, please.
By the way, every time we eat, Tom sent me a story yesterday. Tom Hank, not the actor, our media director, whatever he is. He sends me an article about a story that we're actually going to do later about how like different municipalities are thinking about passing laws that would ban eating behind the wheel, right? And then like Steve responds to that email saying, see, this is why we can't have mandated reporters. It's a perfect example.
Yeah, Steve's on the warpath on that issue.
He is. He's not going to let it go. But anyway, all right, we should take a quick break, no?
Yeah. I feel I had one other thing to say about Whitney Worthington III. Oh, yeah. Yesterday we recorded the next episode of The Point, which, by the way, you should check out on Town Square, our new channel on YouTube. Well, one of the guys on there was an award-winning cartoonist who happens to be blah. And he was talking about how one time he was getting, all these cops had chased him down. And there was like 4 or 5 cop cars, and they're treating him harshly because they were looking for a 6-foot black man that was doing robberies in there. He's like, yeah, that's half the town, right? And then his white friend had come running in when he saw that, and he's like, was outraged, like, how could you do this to my friend? It's obviously not him. And it took him a second to be like, why is my friend outraged? Mm-hmm. Because they come at it from such different perspectives. As a black guy, he's used to getting pulled over all the time. Like, well, of course. So as 4 or 5 cop cars come, it was okay. It's the most standard thing in the world. Whereas the white guy's like, gee, what? How could you? This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference in perspectives. It's what was precipitated that conversation is one of the points we were doing on the show was Ellen Barkin being outraged at being pushed by the cops on Occupy Wall Street. Like, they push everybody else. They, like, slam them, etc. Everybody moves on with their life. Ellen Barkin was... And she yelled at the cop, get your motherfucking hands off me, right? And look, I'm glad she's on the right side of it, etc. But to her, it was like outrageous, like she'd never seen anything like that. Imagine a cop, and he had pushed her just a little bit, right? Like, move to the side. Does that to a black guy, and the guy says, get your motherfucking hands off me, right? Mm-hmm. What's going to happen next?
There'll be a very different response.
Yeah, okay. So.
But if I were a poor black person.
You just work harder. That's it. You just study harder, right, Jack?
All right.
By the way, he mentioned that same. What was his name? Keith.
It starts with a K. Also,
is it Keith Knight?
Keith Knight. God, we're such losers. We just had him on last night.
Yeah, he was great. And JR, he brought up the same article, the Forbes article. If I were a poor black kid, I was like, man, you stepped in JR Jackson's wheelhouse. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, look, I got to tell a story because this is a personal story. This similar thing happened to me in law school. A very good friend of mine, African-American guy, awesome guy, just like the nicest guy. And right after class, he would always volunteer to help indigent people get access to legal services. So when he was moving, I went to law school at UCLA, Westwood, mostly white people. So he couldn't move until nighttime. So he packed up his U-Haul, was moving, and he gets pulled over by the cops. And the cops say, whose stuff you got back there? He goes, it's my stuff. And the cops are like, oh, bullshit. Get out of the car and open up the back. We're law students, so he thinks he has some rights. He goes, look, do you have probable cause? And big mistake. The cop pulls him out of the car, pulls out his gun, puts it to my friend's temple, and says, I will shoot you in the fucking head, you stupid N-word. And all I got to do is put a knife in your hand and say, you attacked me first, and no one will take your word over mine. So shut the fuck up and open up the back. So he did. And then he stood there while the cop called it in and asked the station if there were any reported burglaries. There was nothing, of course. It was all his stuff. And then he's like, all right, get the fuck out of here, and send him on his way. So the next day, when he told me the story, I was absolutely livid. Okay, I freaking lost it. I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, I'm going with you to the police station right now. We're going to file a formal complaint. He's like, Steve, you act like this never happens to black people. He goes, this is a little bit more outrageous than normal, but this shit happens all the time. And I was like, what? And I literally couldn't believe it. But it's all part of this whole white privilege that we enjoy on a daily basis without realizing the difficulties and adverse situations that other races and classes go through all the time. It's really sad, actually.
Yeah, and look, that's a mistake I often made when I was younger. And funny enough, even before that incident with debates that I would have with Steve, where I was like, why would cops plant anything? oh my God, how incredibly naive was I, right? So now think about that story, right? He hasn't heard of any burglary in the area. The cop hasn't. And if you're a logical person, you got to think there's like at least an 80% chance that it's this guy's stuff. In reality, it's like a 98% chance it's a U-Haul truck. Who robs things in a U-Haul truck, right? You move in a U-Haul truck. I mean, there's such an overwhelming percentage chance that it's his stuff. But he thinks, who gives a shit? It's a black guy. I don't care if there's a 99.9% chance that it's his stuff. I'm going to do this anyway. And so what if he's innocent? Imagine if it was a middle-aged white guy in Westwood. You're going to do that to a white guy. You're going to put a gun to his head, okay, in Westwood. No, I don't think so, right?
Yeah, one quick story. That friend of mine, he's now a judge. What now? He won. And all these stupid-ass cops who are racist to him, they have to go kiss his ass and ask him to sign off on warrants and all that kind of stuff.
I love that story.
See, JR, if I were a poor black kid, I'd become a judge.